This is Alex Rowley for the final assignment for Aspen University, the Substance Use Counseling class. Today we will be talking about ethics and its place in addiction counseling, as well as how it relates to treating vulnerable populations. Excuse me, I'm a little sick today. I have a cold. So that's why I sound the way I do. But let's get started. Okay, so ethics is a very interesting part of counseling. They're put in place by various agencies in order to protect both the client and the counselor. There's been a lot of issues in the history of psychology of counselors maybe taking advantage of their position, and so ethics are very important in the sense that they help protect both of you. Now, when you're dealing with a vulnerable population, or you're treating members of different cultures and ethnicities, it's very important that you take ethics into account when you're treating them, because when you're treating somebody from a different culture, there's many things that you don't know about that culture. There's things that may be offensive in that culture, or like questions that you may ask them that are deemed offensive, and that can be a very difficult area to kind of navigate. So I would recommend, when you're dealing with clients from other ethnicities or cultures, to do your own research into their culture, so you don't accidentally say or do anything that can either offend them or hurt them, or make it difficult for them to open up to you. So some of the parts of ethics are pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. They talk about the relationship between a counselor and a client, and like what's allowed and what's not allowed. Obviously, you definitely shouldn't be involved in a romantic relationship with your client. I've actually seen that happen in treatment, and the treatment center found out, the counselor was fired, and the client left treatment. So it damages everybody involved. So the counseling relationship is, purely professional. You are going to, your client's going to be sharing very confidential and private information with you. And it's important that you don't take advantage of that, because, you're dealing with people who, some of them are going to be at their lowest. They're vulnerable, they're hurt. So ethics and like ethical guidelines are put in place to protect, the client and you from, personal harm, professional harm. So that's super important to keep in mind. Now, another issue that is very important is the issue of confidentiality, especially in the addiction counseling area, because there is still some stigma surrounding addiction, and it's very important that you keep your client's confidentiality, because they don't want everybody to know their business. They may face personal or professional consequences as a result of their addiction. So confidentiality is very, very important as a counselor. That can be hard to kind of navigate when you're treating a minor, because you're going to have parents come in and want to know, obviously, right, how their child's treatment is going, what they're saying, and that's hard because I've seen that in my own life. Like I went to counseling when I was like for the first time when I was 18, and my mom was like talking to the counselor, and she wanted to know what was going on with me, like, and I think her opinion was like, I'm paying the bills, like I'm paying this, so he's my son, and I want to know what's going on, and um, I was 18 at the time, so I wasn't technically a minor, but I was still in high school, still living at home, and that put my counselor in a difficult position. And so it's very important that you keep in mind the confidentiality issue, and I would basically recommend that you follow that to like the letter of the law, just so there's no accidental mistakes made. Now, like I talked about before, the counseling relationship is it's a unique one, and sometimes there's going to be a dual relationship, especially if you live in a small town. You could be the only counselor in that town, right? So you may know your clientele previously, like you may have had personal interactions with them. So that can be difficult, but at the same time, I think that if you study, the counseling or the ethical guidelines very closely, you'll be able to navigate having a dual relationship with your client. I think that as long as you do your best to remain professional and set boundaries with your client, I think that is what is most important. So that will be all for the video. I will go ahead and upload it to YouTube. I really enjoyed this class. I've learned a lot, so thank you.